Right, everyone. Let's do this exercise now. We have seen three applications. We have seen brand health, we have seen customer satisfaction, and we have seen advertising pre-testing. We have seen the questionnaire, we have seen the outputs as well of each of this. Let us now build a questionnaire. Let's not make it too big a questionnaire. Let's now build a questionnaire to understand the process through which we go about writing a questionnaire. Okay, so we will. I'm using the Word document, and I hope you all can read what I'm typing. I shall zoom in so that it is clearer, even if your laptop screen is not so good. So I'm going to call it a trial questionnaire. Right? Mouse switch here. Let's say we're doing this for brand health and CSAT, but only some portions, not the full question. Right? So the questions we're going to ask and the flow in which we're going to ask is as below. Unaided awareness, aided awareness, brand currently using, brands ever used, one most often used brand, satisfaction with current brand, right? Areas of dissatisfaction, if any. So there's not really an actual question. Just an example of, we have tried to club two kinds of questions: awareness questions and using questions from the brand health portion, and a simple satisfaction question from the CSAT portion, just so that you get used to the process of writing a questionnaire. Right? So here is how we go about it. Question 1. Well, let's see, 1. Do each break. So 1. Let's say we're doing this for motorcycles, right? Or we're doing it for cars. Let's say we're doing it for cars, because I know more about car brands. I'm not familiar with the latest motorcycle brands. My knowledge is very outdated. So we'll go with cars. So can you please tell me which brands of car you, and here we have a choice. We can say you are aware of. This is fine. Or we can say have heard of. Both are correct. Just speaking for myself, I prefer to say which brands of car have you heard of, because I want to minimize use of any kind of technical terms like awareness, etc., in a question. I want to use completely consumer speak. So can you tell me which brands of car you have heard of is what I'm really comfortable using. Now we've got to do a provision for writing the answers here. Now, as we have discussed when talking about brand health, as we discussed when talking about advertising recall, both in the brand health as well as in the ad pre-test questionnaire, we need to make a provision. The first mention will be top of mind, and the others will be called other unaided. So I'm going to insert a table where people can write down the answers. So I'm going to provision for about 7 or 8, right? And I'm going to say that they should write the top of mind here. They should write it here, and then they should write the other brands here. The brands that come after the top of mind. So can you tell me which branch of car you've heard of? And they can write down the answers in these spaces which I'm highlighting in yellow right now. Right? So they can write down the answers here. Now, so then the next question that we had, and this is a discipline that I want you to inculcate. We have to go back to a flow chart. So the next question that we have is aided abandons. So here I would say please see the list of brands below. And you can say tell us, or you can say indicate. I still prefer tell us. Again, in my mind, it is closer to simple consumer speak. So, I mean, if we were to say this in Hindi, we would say, कृपया आप ये list देखें और हमें बताइए. Right? So tell us. It's a simple thing. Tell us which of these brands you have heard of. Right, and here we have to give a list. Now, so I already have a table format. I can copy the table format. And I can just paste it here. And here I have to type the brand names now. Right, and this whole yellow thingy will not be there. Now, I need more space to write the brand name. So, which are the car brands we're aware of? It is an important question in brand health research. We can talk about car brands as being Maruti. We can talk about car brands as Hyundai, Tata Motors, Renault, etc., etc. But those are actually really company car brands. They're not really product car brands. So, it's probably a better idea to talk about specific car brands like this Maruti Baleno, Maruti Alto, Maruti Swift Desire, what else comes? Maruti Breeza. What else is there? Maruti Ertiga. And yeah, so that's Maruti, I guess. And then there is Hyundai Verna or Hyundai Creta. And then there is Hyundai Venue. And then there's Tata Nexon. And I don't know if Tata Indica still comes, but anyway, just as an example, Tata Indica. And then we have, I don't know, we have Kia Seltos, a couple of other brands, and Kia, I'm sure. And then we have so many other car manufacturers and car brands. So all those names will come here.
I have a doubt.
Yes, what's your doubt?
So when we look at cars, there are multiple segments, right? There is a hatchback, there is a premium hatchback.
Yeah.
do we normally try to classify these brands based on that and look at the brand health?
Ideally, yes, but for the purpose of the example, I haven't tried to do that. But ideally, yes, you should compare like apples to apples. So, brand health study is normally done within the hatchback segment, or within the sedan segment, or within the saloon segment, or within the luxury car segment, or the SUV segment. Yeah, that makes sense. That's what will normally be done. Yeah.
And do you normally compare luxury brands like Audi and
with other luxury brands?
With the other brands like
with other luxury brands.
Okay, so
it doesn't make sense to compare it because see, a customer can choose between a Maruti 800 or Maruti Auto and an Audi, but it's unlikely. He's not going to choose between it. A person who can afford to buy an Audi will probably buy in addition a Maruti Auto. He's not going to say I'm choosing between Maruti Auto and Audi. Right? So one is about 5 lakhs, the other is about 40-50 lakhs or whatever. So.
And today there are a lot of electric vehicles. So, but not all the models are available in that form.
Yeah, true. A lot of electric vehicles and not all the models. Yeah. So, see, we're talking about brand. In brand, you have technology choice, right? So, for example, if a person says, "I prefer Hyundai Creta," and then the question becomes, "Why do you prefer Hyundai Creta?" The person can say, "I have a choice of electric there." Right? But you see, the concept of brand health can apply, the concept of health can apply to brands, which is the example that we're going through. It can also apply to technology. People can trade off between technologies as well. So, we can talk about, the health of petrol vehicles versus diesel vehicles versus hybrid vehicles versus electric vehicles as perceived by consumers, the equity of each of these technologies.
So, we can also look at only one technology and look at the brand health within that technology.
We can do that as well. Yeah, but that may not be market reality today. See, it is not, well, actually, it may be reality. Let me correct myself. It's possible because I'm sure there are consumers who go out saying, I'm going to buy an electric vehicle. And then the choice only becomes between brands of electric vehicles. So, yeah, you're right. It is possible to look at only electric vehicle or only petrol vehicles. People could start out by saying, I'm going to buy a petrol vehicle, and then just look at vehicle brand choices within that. Yeah. So that, we can look at only that as well. It depends on how you define your competitive set. If you believe consumers are comparing a petrol Wagoner versus an electric Santro, if you believe people are comparing a manual automatic Wagoner versus a manual gear Wagoner versus an automatic Santro, just for example, then they should be in the same list. But if you believe the consumers choose between automatic versus automatic, then you define it that way. Right? Okay, so to come back to this, we put the
So you're saying it is up to us to decide how we are going to...
Absolutely. It's up to us to decide, not whimsically. It's up to us to decide based on what we understand about how consumers are choosing between brands here. How consumers are choosing between brands should be the operational guideline here. Okay, so we're coming back to this questionnaire. We've got the brand names now. So now we will say, we just write some code numbers so that in data analysis it becomes easier. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 7, 12, 6, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and so on and so forth. 11. Yellow highlights carried forward from the previous one. I'll see if we can remove them. These things always give me a problem. I will do that. Right so far? Okay. So we are done 2 questions. Now we'll go back to the flow chart. What's this? We'll now go back to the flow chart. And what we had in our flow, the next question was brands currently using. So in this case, when it comes to products like cars or refrigerators, we won't ask for which brand do you use at home. We ask which brands do you have at home, or which brands do you own. So please see this list, which is the same list of brands, and tell us which brand which brands of car do you yourself own? Do you own? You don't need do you. Which brands of cars do you own? And so the same table can come here, right? Okay. Now, some people could be owning more than one car, and therefore we need to ask them which of these brands do you use mainly? Now, this question is asked only to people who have more than one brand. So, do you use mainly? So, here we have to put an instruction, and I'm sure you'll remember that we said instructions come in capitals and bold. So, ask only those respondents who own more than one car. So, which of these brands do you use mainly is the question here. So, you have more than one car. Do you use both of them equally, or do you use one of them more often than the other? So, again, the same table will come, right? The options are the same. Now, I don't like the idea of this table being split by the page break. So I shall move this all together to the next page. And I'm saving my work as I keep going along. I keep doing Control S. I'm saving this somewhere in the desktop. Going to save this side for now. Right? Yeah, let's continue. And then my next question would be, you're having these two cars currently, which is there as per the flow chart. What's wrong with the mouse? Why is my mouse hanging? What's happening? It's coming. So as per the flow chart, the next question is which vehicles, which brands have you used in the past? So the equivalent question here, because it's car and we don't say used, we say own. So which of these, the caps is carried forward, I have to move that. Which of these car brands have you owned earlier, apart from the ones you own now? So apart from the ones that you own now, which have you owned earlier? And here again, the same table will come. Okay. Now, so far so good, right? But you would have seen that this is a little space occupying. So there are ways to make this more efficient space-wise, and I'll show you how. I mean, common sense guidelines. There's no rocket science here, right? So I'll remove this table altogether after question 3. Okay, and I'm pulling the next question up here, and I'll remove this table also altogether. Okay, and I'm pulling this next question also up. Now, does it come in a pages here? So what I'll do now is I will make this column much narrower, and then I'll insert 2 more columns to the right. I'll insert a column to the right, and I'll insert another column to the right. Now I will use the first column for question 3. Which of these brands do you own now? So I'm going to use the first column here for question 3. I'm going to use the second column here for question 4. And I'm going to use the third column here for question 5. But how do I know that? So all I have to do is I have to insert a row on top. And I say Question 3. Own. Question 4. Use mainly. Question 5. Owned in the past. Right? So this makes it very simple now. I've saved a lot of space. I've brought all these questions down into about 1 or 2 pages now compared to an extra page earlier. So let's go back to the flow. After this, what is there in the questionnaire? So question 5 is what we have finished. Brands ever used. We have not asked brands ever used. We have actually used brands owned in the past. They're the same. You can say brands ever used, or you can say current brand and then brands owned in the past. Effectively, it's the same thing, brands ever used. And now we have to ask satisfaction with current brand. Right, so let's go to question 6. So here we are. I'm going to give a page break. It's not going. Question 6. You said that you use ... mainly. That you use so and so car brand mainly. Right? Please look at the options. Given below. Please look at the options given below and tell us which of them best expresses your level of satisfaction with this brand of car. Okay. So now you're asking satisfaction with the car that they use mainly. And the options are, there's nothing. It's not something that you haven't seen before. Right? We need a table once again. We need a table with 2 columns. And we need a table with 5 rows. Oh, by mistake I've taken an extra column. What's happening now? Sorry, I'm not really controlling the mouse very well. Right? So, what are the options here? We're seeing a 5-point satisfaction option, right? 5-point scale. So, it goes from very dissatisfied, and I'll give it a score of 1. Somewhat dissatisfied, I'll give it a score of 2. Neither satisfied nor dissatisfied. This is what we call the midpoint. And give it a score of 3. What is wrong here? Somewhat satisfied is a score of 4. And very satisfied is a score of 5. Right? So, so now we have a 5-point satisfaction scale, which is what you have seen in the customer set example that we saw. Okay. So I have put an extra row, so I shall remove it. And then this last question in the flow chart was areas of dissatisfaction, if any. So we should ask people who are dissatisfied why they are dissatisfied. So again, an instruction in capitals and bold. Ask those who answer 1 or 2 or 3 in question 6 above. That is people who are dissatisfied. And the question itself will be, can you tell us why you are not satisfied with the car that you use maybe? Okay. And then we need to make a provision for them to write down the answer. So I'll just give a text box. Simple text box. Okay, now we had planned only for such a short questionnaire, so I'm going to stop this here. So I'm going to say thank you for your time. And that's the end of this questionnaire. Okay, it took maybe 15-20 minutes. You'll also see there's no rocket science about it. It is something which any one of us can do. It just requires adequate training. But there are a couple of things that I want to stress. I first wrote down the flow. I first wrote down what I want to find out. That discipline is indispensable to write a questionnaire. You must do all your thinking when you write down that flow, when you write down the list of things that you want to find out. Once you have written that flow, and once that flow and list are sort of frozen after adequate thought and after adequate ideation, writing the questions itself should be a mechanical process. There are standard wordings for awareness, there are standard wordings for aided awareness, there are standard wordings for level of satisfaction, for reasons for the satisfaction. You don't need to reinvent the wheel. Please don't reinvent the wheel. Use the standard wordings, right? What I just saw here is one kind of standard wordings. There are only about different research companies may have slightly different standard wordings, but the difference is, it's not like the difference between, like they say in Hindi, it's not Zameen Asman the difference. It's only 19 bees. There's a small difference between them. Some people use A, some people use A dash. That's extra difference between all these methods. Try to stick to one or the other standard wording consistently, whatever works for you. That is number one. Number two, there are standard options, scale options, which are frozen, which are tested, which work. Use those standard scale options. Do not try to be creative in question wording or in scale wording. You cannot just use a new scale or a new kind of question wording just because you want to be different. It's important to be consistent and use something tried and tested. So think about the flow, ideate about the information that needs to be covered, freeze that after adequate thought, and then cut. Mechanically write the questionnaire based on, the fact that there are standard wordings, there are standard scale options, there are standard formatting options which can be borrowed from what has been done thousands of times in the past by the research industry. Do not try to reinvent those kind of things. This is an important thing to keep in mind. The other thing to keep in mind is the fact that brand health research necessarily follows a certain kind of information area. That thing is templatized to a great extent. Again, I'm not saying the exact questions are templatized. There are 2-3 options there. But a brand health questionnaire must have awareness questions, must have behavior questions, must have disposition questions. A satisfaction questionnaire must have satisfaction, recommendation, intention to continue, reasons for the satisfaction question. An advertising pre-testing questionnaire must have an aided ad recall, brand registration, followed by soulless exposure questions about relevance of message, attractiveness of the creative, and so on and so forth. This is based in good marketing and market research theory. We cannot go back on this. We cannot reinvent the wheel on these things. So whenever we're doing a study which is one of these methodologies, brand health, customer satisfaction, advertising pre-testing, campaign evaluation, concept testing, product testing, demand estimation, consumer decision journey, media research, there is enough and more standard protocols which can be followed. There is no need to reinvent the wheel. So please stick with that. This process, let us assume I was writing a full brand health questionnaire. I'm sure you can envisage that it's not going to take me more than an hour and 20 minutes at the most. Unless there's something radically new elements in the questionnaire. But the basic brand health questionnaire, I can complete in about an hour and a quarter. That's because I am not, thinking about what to ask as a right. I thought about it earlier. It exists in the protocols. I'm just using templatized wordings and following that flow. Right? Clear so far? Do you have any questions at this point?
No.
Okay. So let's close this session here. Next session we'll come back we have seen 3 topics and I want to break it to stress these points. When we come back, we'll continue with the next set of topics like employee satisfaction and so on and so forth. Right? Yeah. Thank you.